You're watching Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. We're broadcasting from our Abuja headquarters studios. We're now turning our attention to our second topic, which is on the security situation in Kaduna State. We have with us in the studios this morning a traditional title holder from Kaduna, that's the Satim Atiap. He's also a lawyer, Danlade Francis Koza. Pleasure to have you with us in the studios this morning.
It's my pleasure to be here.
Also here with us in the studios is Emmanuel Ado, a journalist and, of course, a public affairs journalist.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right.
Yeah.
So,
Gentlemen,
Kieran?
you're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Before we bring up the 2020 report about the state government on the security situation in Kaduna State, let's get to reaction on the abduction and the subsequent release of students and other Nigerians in Kaduna State. Kaduna has become the epicenter when it comes to abduction, kidnapping, and of course other crises, in recent times. I would like to begin with the barrister, and of course a traditional tattoo holder, because as a traditional tattoo holder, I know that peace is your watchword.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like you rightly pointed out, we in Kaduna, both the government and the traditional institutions, peace is our watchword. We do everything possible to ensure the safety of lives and properties in Kaduna State. What is happening in Kaduna State is not peculiar to Kaduna State. It's a problem that is Nigerian, nationwide, and it's a problem that is even worldwide. And Kaduna State government and the traditional institutions in Kaduna State are taking decisive action to address the issue. And that is why when even this issue of the Afaka case came up, you see the prompt reaction of government, the prompt reaction of people to rescuing the students, and concrete steps have been taken to ensure that these students that are still remaining in captivity are returned back home safely and sound. Secondly, steps are also ongoing to sensitize and mobilize the people to be security conscious, because we believe in Kaduna State that security is not just that of government, that security is everybody's business. Just like I have the responsibility to secure my house, to ensure that everything within my house is safe. It's expected that everybody in Kaduna State will take steps to also ensure that the environment in which he lives in, the properties in which he manages, is also secure. The workforce in which he works is safe, and so on and so forth. And then government will also come in with their might and to do it. And for the government part have done well as far as my assessment is concerned, because they have tried to bring in security personnel closer to the people, to the grassroots. If you go to the villages, you see police posts, you see military posts all over the place, and these people are there stationed. They are funded by government, by the Kaduna State government. Their finance, their mobility, their everything is provided by the state government, with the assistance also of the local government and even the local people. Because you go there, you see the local people providing food for these security personnel, cooking food and bringing it to them, so that there is this liaison, this cohesion between the security personnel and the people on ground. And that is why we have the rate and level of kidnapping and banditry has substantially reduced. What it has reduced to the extent that they are now targeting soft targets that they will just hit and run away. When you go to the villages like Gora, for instance, in a chiefdom, my chiefdom, that has suffered series of attacks, you see that they'll come from the bushes, from the Koro axis. It's just a vast forest there. And they'll just come in, attack one or two places, and run away. And so what we have done now is to, of course, apart from mobilizing the community to be watchful, we have also ensured that the police, the soldiers are taken to those areas, those border areas, where they can easily react to such instances. So in Kaduna State, in summary, what I want to say is that both the government, the people, and the traditional institutions are resolved to addressing this issue of insecurity in the state. And God helping us, we are going to succeed.
All right. Thank you very much, Barrister Koza. Let's bring in Emmanuel Ado at this time. Emmanuel, help us unpack the situation in Kaduna Is there any linkage between the regular conflicts that are frequently reported and with fatalities involving ethnic groups, sometimes religious groups, and banditry, and kidnapping for ransom and armed robbery? Or are all sometimes it's quite some challenge understanding what's going on, which is which, and Koza says, look, we're getting on top of it. On top of what are you getting on right now?
Very, very critically, the issue of, or maybe I join him, very, very critical for Kaduna State government has been the issue of ensuring that peace reigns, like he has said. And like you know, of the 36 states of the Federation, so that people don't always single out Kaduna State, you know. You remember that famous advert on Lagos International Airport, this is Lagos, until it was removed. Of course, the crime situation in Lagos is definitely, whether it's kidnapping, whether it's banditry attacks and whatnot, it's definitely, if they have a report like Kaduna State has, will show that more of these incidences happen in that locality. Whether it's also communal, once in a while we have Hausa traders and Yorubas clashing and spilling out of control and all that, which we also have. But thankfully, that has been tackled. If you remember, these gentlemen were here last year after the Atiap chiefdom decided to engage, to reach out to us, to say, look, we have killed each other's. We have been attacking each other's. So let's reaffirm the constitutionality, the right of every Nigerian to reside wherever he or she wants to. So I think it's very important to understand what has happened since last year, and Reverend Yakubu Pam, he was also here, his efforts. So Kaduna, you don't get to hear those retaliatory killings, because you said unpack. So what some narratives, like this report debunked the issues of genocide that I'm sure you have read several times about. What this report has shown is that claims of genocide are not true, that the worst hit senatorial district of Kaduna State in terms of banditry, in terms of kidnap, and in terms of cattle rustling is Kaduna Central. So what has really happened, like if you remember, the emir of Briningwari was unfortunately attacked. Briningwari is in Kaduna Central. It's in Kaduna Central. Now, if that attack had taken place against a chief from southern Kaduna, the narrative you will get will be someone is, I don't want to call names, someone is trying to get rid of our chief and maybe impose a certain tribe and all that. Those are the narratives you will get. And then there will be retaliatory killings. So, be that as it may, we have a situation where what has happened in Briningwari, Igabi, Giwa areas have not attracted, which is very critical. The numbers we are talking about would have been worse if people of Giwa, Igabi, Briningwari, assuming their people reacted to the attack, deadly attack on their emir, you would have had the numbers. You would have had numbers. But luckily, they understand that this is bandits at work, and they've been at work the last 20, 30 years in that area. And it has been a major challenge because of that forest that runs between Niger up to Zamfara, which is why Nasser El-Rufai keeps saying we must have a concerted effort. Otherwise, Kaduna is carrying out more operations, they run to Niger. Niger is doing something, they come back to Katsina. Katsina put fire on them, they go to Zamfara. So that is what you have. But I think everybody, if you see the position of Masari Aminu now, governor of Katsina, it has shifted 360 degrees from negotiations, from payment of ransom, to all-out war against them. So I think what El-Rufai has been advocating, and he has placed this in the public domain, his gratitude to his Niger State counterpart, Sani Bello, who has engaged, who has cooperated with him. So, but we need Kaduna, Niger, Zamfara, Katsina to work together and flush out these bandits.
I'm actually going to say that, look, there's a good reason for Kingsley to say unpack.
Unpack, yeah.
Because, those days we used to have a Zego-Kataf crisis. You know that. It's still in Kaduna axis.
Yeah.
Now, and we have incessant attacks in the Kaduna South. Ethnic crisis. Attack and counter-attack. It's been so incessant in Kaduna. Now we're talking about abduction of students or kidnapping. Now you know what happened in Kaduna recently. We talked about Emma Obinungwari who was shot, who was attacked last time. Remember that there was another traditional ruler who was kidnapped in Kaduna. So it has become an epicenter, and that is why Nigerians are worried about what's happening in Kaduna with respect to security. In fact, the governor of the state, has rightly pointed out, is on top of it because he has vowed not to negotiate with bandits. That is all out to attack them, which is very good, if you ask me. Now, the report has emerged from the government based on perhaps the approach of government, towards ensuring that there is peace in Kaduna State. What is this report all about? Can we get it from you? What's this report all about, and how far can this report go in bringing peace to Kaduna State? Very beautiful state, which all of a sudden has become an epicenter for kidnapping, abduction, and what have you.
Well, first of all, let me say, yes, we experience kidnapping, abduction, whatever, but I beg to disagree that it's the epicenter of those crises. You look at the country at large, you find out that there are a lot of crises in other states of the Federation, be that as may. For the report, Kaduna State tried to address this issue of insecurity by bearing in mind that, yes, the governor is the chief security officer of the state. Everybody knows that. Everybody accepts that. Constitutionally, they accept that. But again, as chief security officer, the commander-in-chief does not have anybody to command. The army, the police, the SSS that are saddled with responsibility of maintaining security, it's not under the control of the Kaduna State government, like any other governor. So that becomes a big problem. But the governor now said, okay, let us...
commander-in-chief.
Whatever.
Okay, sorry.
Well, when I
Chief
talk about
Security Officer.
Chief Security Officer. When I talk about commander-in-chief, I'm not talking about commander as the person in charge of security in the state. Thank you for that. Now, so when he realized that lacuna, that gap between him as the chief security officer and the people that ought to provide security, he said, we need to link up with them. And that informed the setting up of the Ministry for Internal Security and Home Affairs. Now, this ministry is saddled with the responsibility of linking the state government with these federal agencies that have the responsibility of maintaining law and order in the state. And they have been doing that work very well. And that synergy is there. Secondly, the traditional institutions in Kaduna State are not left out in this fight against insecurity. In their own different ways, they have taken steps to secure their environment, their people. And there's a reporting template that if something happened in your village, for instance, as I told you, there are police formations all over the place. The security agencies in that place compile the reports. They go to the scene of the incident, take record of those who are killed, those who are maimed, those houses that were burnt, and they send them to the Ministry for Internal Security. The traditional ruler, the Meungwa, that's the village head in that area, will also take the same data of what happened in his domain and send it to the traditional council, his chief, his paramount ruler. And the paramount will verify those vehicles and forward them upstairs to the Kaduna State government. So there are NGOs that are working.
I'm sorry to interject, because this is part of what we are driving at, so that we know that there are different kinds of crimes.
Banditry.
Kidnapping for ransom, cattle rustling.
Yes.
And then, more critically, the issue of the interethnic and sometimes interreligious conflict. So there's virtually nowhere you can solve all of the other problems. But if where you have the highest gains would come from, say, the Peace Commission or other activities relating to the interethnic and interreligious conflicts in southern Kaduna, for instance, speak to that and let us see how well it has worked, or whether the same mechanism that has worked there is also now being available to deal with cattle rustling and kidnapping for ransom as well as banditry.
Okay, so let me just land. Now, how do we address this issue? I said, first of all, most of the traditional institutions in Kaduna State, especially in southern Kaduna, made it upon themselves to homegrown generate solution to their crisis by holding meetings, seminars, and so on and so on. And this has changed the narratives. The narratives, because before you hear a narrative that the attack is religious, the attack is ethnic. And because of that narrative, people came to believe that if there's attack, there's going to be reprisal. Because you have killed my tribesman, you have killed the person who shared the same religious belief with me, and so on and so on. And you have the belief that, so that narrative was there. But gradually, with the engagement of traditional rulers and peace advocates in southern Kaduna, we are able to show to the people, look, that whether you are Christian or you are pagan, whether you are Christian, Muslim, or pagan, whether you are a Tiab or Hausa or Fulani, your common enemy is the guy who comes to kill, and not your neighbor who shares a different religion, a different tribe with you. That narrative have helped greatly to be able to reduce the spread of reprisal killings in southern Kaduna. Because people now see, look, our common enemy is not my immediate neighbor who shares a different tribe with me, who shares a different religion with me, but the guy who comes from the bush to attack. And so let's put heads together and defend ourselves. So that is working for us, especially in a chiefdom. That is really working. And so other chiefdoms also do the same thing. So that is why if you look at the report says in the other senatorial districts, yes, mainly it was banditry, kidnapping, and so on and so forth that leads to the death. But in the southern part, they said, but with reprisal killings. And the reprisal killing came about as a result of the narratives, about the wrong narratives that was being chalked out by different groups, by different societies about the crisis. When they said it was Christian versus Muslim, it was Hausa versus indigenous, and so on and so forth, which is not true. Everybody is affected, whether you are Muslims, whether you are Christians, whether you are pagan, whether you are Ketiap, whether you are Fulani, whether you are Hausa, everybody is suffered one loss or the other as a result of this crisis. And so people are now meant to see that, look, this crisis is not ethnic, this crisis is not religious, this crisis is pure criminality. And therefore, everybody has a responsibility to attack the criminal. So that has helped. And I pray that in Nigeria, people will see it like such. And let us collectively put heads together and deal with the criminal. Whether you are, whatever you are, a criminal is a criminal and must be dealt with accordingly.
Emmanuel?
Yeah, so the unpacking, essentially, the crisis is banditry, is kidnapping, is cattle rustling. But the difference is the reaction of, while the man in Igabi, Giwa, essentially who are 99% Muslims, would accept what has happened. The man in southern Kaduna is likely to interpret the attack, the banditry attack, as grab for land, and then it assumes religious or ethnic communal clashes. And like he said, you have a situation where bandits come to attack, but those bandits run away, but the indigenous people, whether they are Hausas or Fulanis or who have lived peacefully amongst themselves, you will now find the Hausas being unfortunately attacked, and then most times. But you will notice that 2015 to date, usually when there are killings and counter killings in southern Kaduna, it spills through up to Kaduna, Zaria, and other places. But you will notice that since 2015 to date, the governor has been able to contain it, because that's always been one of the things that counter killings, and most times even to the southeast.
What is his magic wand?
Well, it's a lot of hard work. It was really hard work. And that's, I think, one advantage of this report now, that narrative, the media itself now, there's a working tool. I call this report State of the State of Kaduna State in 2020. Now, when the media, when people come here to scream genocide, you have something to counter them, to say, but this is the figure released by the state government. And I would want to also say, the media, you have a responsibility to push. Let's have a federal government security report zone by zone. Let states also release what has happened in their state in the last 1 year. And then we'll be talking with statistics. We'll be talking with statistics. I think that's one good thing about this report. You were also talking about this, the objective, and how impactful this report will be. For the people of Kaduna now, this will further drive home the point that the banditry attacks are banditry attacks. They are not land grabs. The Fulani man, with all fairness to him, wants food for his animals, but not land. He's the last man that wants to buy land or stay on any land. He's this thing. So it will help the people of Kaduna moving forward. And I must say this, during the presentation, I was pleasantly surprised when the senator representing Kaduna, Southern Kaduna Senatorial District, Senator Danjuma La, came up and said, I acknowledge that the crisis, the security challenges facing Nigeria is not limited to Southern Kaduna. It is national. And how I wish that for political reasons, that narrative had been what he had been stressing from 2015 when he got elected to date. But just March here, he says, I admit. And that has gone a long, it will go a long way.
Yeah, that's a very important point, Kirian. Well, part of the report, I imagine, would also have dealt with how conflict merchants can be stopped in their tracks, and how opinion leaders, who sometimes are the promoters of these ugly narratives, inciting narratives, to say, no, this is a land grab effort, X, Y, Z. What, therefore, Barrister Koza, you think should be the responsibility of opinion leaders, influence peddlers in and around Kaduna State with regard to the peace initiatives that are supposed to be part of the outcomes of this report?
Thank you very much. You see, the truth of the matter is that those that peddle those falsehoods are not on ground. They are not on ground to be able to assess the situation and say, in fact, in truth, that this is the situation. They are just hanging up either in the media or in the social media or the press media and so on, and they make statements that are not true. So what we do, what we did or we are doing in Southern Kaduna is to at least tell the people, chunk out the truth of the situation to the people. So that if the merchant, the false merchant came with their narratives, with their own narratives, at least they'll be able to balance, they'll see also what is on ground, and then that will check them. And since we have started doing that, you know, the level has reduced greatly. They have reduced their propaganda in the media about this genocide, about this, and so on and so forth. So they need to sensitize the people and tell the people the true situation on ground. It has helped a lot to curtail these false narratives that Southern Kaduna crisis is genocide, is Christian, Muslim, and so on and so forth.
I'm not stopping you yet. But when you say the opinion leaders, the merchants, the propagandists, who are, giving us information with respect to the issue of the fact that yes, there is a ethnic crisis and people should take up arms. But you know that some youths are armed. Some people who perpetuate this as are armed.
Yeah.
And these opinion leaders or merchants, as the case may be, are maybe responsible for them being armed. So how has this issue of this report addressed the issue of disarming some militants in that area that have been perpetuating these atrocities, in the hinterland?
Thank you very much. You see, just like I told you, the sensitization that we have carried out has, number one, stopped the blocking of roads. If you look at our community in 2020, in August, we made it categorical, no matter what, there should be no blocking of roads in the event of any crisis. And since we took that decision and start talking to people around, all these crises that have happened in Southern Kaduna, there has never been any road blockage. And when they block the road, they enhance it to increase the number of casualties because people are attacked. Innocent passerbys are also attacked. Number two, we said under no circumstances should anybody go to rear his cattle or go to the farm with a gun. And that anybody who is seen holding a gun, rearing cattle, holding a gun to his farm, that person should be arrested. The community should report that person to the nearest police station, and that person should be arrested and prosecuted. That, again, has reduced the level of which people hold arms, either to go on rearing cattle or on farming and so on and so forth. And so it reduced the clash. So this sensitization and mobilization of the people has greatly helped in bringing about peace in Southern Kaduna. And I pray in Nigeria too, in Kaduna State, because the governor, upon the receipt of that report from the Etiap chiefdom, read it, and he made it clear to other chiefdoms that, look, follow the footsteps of what the Etiap people have done to have a homegrown solution to the incessant crisis that they are having in their chiefdom. And seriously, people are doing it, and that is why, as I said, the level of reprisal killings, the level of attacks have substantially reduced. They have been reduced to soft areas that the ability is also addressing and the community is also addressing.
All right. We'd like to thank you very much for being on Good Morning Nigeria today, and to wish you and others in Kaduna State the very best in terms of overcoming current security challenges. Satin Matiap, Barrister Francis Doladi Koza, thank you very much for being with us this morning.
My pleasure.
Emmanuel Ado, Public Affairs Analyst, we appreciate your being around today. All right, so that's it for our second topic. Let's quickly take sports, and then, of course, we'll sign off.
The Nigeria senior national team had their